go at this. So I looked at the forms, and unfortunately the cut-off date had finished 6 weeks earlier. So I thought, oh, that's a bit of blow, but I got on the computer, and I was new to the computer in those days, and I sent them an email and said, look, we're in Australia, we've only just received this, any chance you'll still let us have a go? And she emailed back and said, no, sorry, we can't do that, we can't change the rules. So I just scanned in some of Tim's art and sent it to her and said, thanks very much, we'll try again in 5 years, because it's only held once every 5 years. I was on the same time zone as Washington. She sent back an email and said, if you send it to me straight away, I'll put it in. The jury sits tomorrow. So that was my first stroke of luck. So I did that, sent it off and thought, oh, this is well and good. I'll have a bit of a try, didn't even worry about it much longer. 3 months later, we get a letter saying, congratulations, Tim is one of only 4 young adults from around the world who was selected for the VSA Arts Festival. It is the largest arts festival in the world for people with disabilities. It was founded 30 years ago by Jean Kennedy Smith, who is the sister of Tim.
John F. Kennedy.
Yep, the president John F. Kennedy. One of the sisters founded the Special Olympics, and the other sister founded this arts organisation for children with, or adults as well with disabilities. They have full representation in all the states of America, plus the 42 different countries around the world, representing 6 million different people. So it was a huge honour to be selected. So after all the excitement and the screaming and the cheering and thrill of being accepted, I read the fine print that said for your art to be exhibited you have to go. So I'm on my own with 2 boys and a pension. I thought, how am I going to get to America? You know, we don't even get to go on a holiday down the Gold Coast. So I thought, well, this is to me the same as if he'd qualified for the Olympics. So I'm going to have a go and see if I can get the money. So I don't owe anyone money, I pay all my bills, but I just don't earn enough. So we went from my bank wouldn't give me any money. I got into one of those mortgage brokers, they couldn't help me. Went to other banks, no one had helped me, and I just given up. And then a month later I thought, I've got 4 more days, I'm going to give it a try. So I rang for the last time a mortgage broker, and he came to the house. I told him the story, and we're having a chat, and he said, look, years ago my mum was in the same boat. We all played rugby and we were getting really good, and we were starting to play for the state. She had nothing, and somebody lent us the money. He said, it's time for me to do the same. So he made a few phone calls and got us a loan, and off we were going to America. So I had 2 guardian angels looking after us for that. First, the person who sent the application forms, that we only found out about 2 years ago who it was, and secondly was the mortgage brokers getting us the money. So we went over to America, and Tim carried the Australian flag into the opening ceremony at the John F. Kennedy Performing Arts Centre, which was actually one of the greatest moments of my life. It still gets me now. After being told what we were told in the beginning, that he could do that for his country. He also got to meet with Ambassador Jean Kennedy Smith, who was an absolutely lovely lady, and we went for morning tea with the Australian ambassador in Washington. And at that meeting he said to us, it's been a great week. I've had the Governor-General and John Howard, who was the Prime Minister, and he said, now it gets better, I've got Tim Sharp here. So, which was a huge honour. We had a fantastic week. We're there, and while we were there, the ABC's Australian Story came with us and filmed Tim's story of the trip to Washington, and since then our life has not stopped. Once it was screened, we've just heard from people all around the world, and things have gone on. The first thing they said to us is, you better have an exhibition. We hadn't even had one of those before. So we put it all together, and it was opened by the Governor-General, the now Governor-General, Quentin Bryce, who at the time was the Governor of Queensland. She a good friend of yours too, Tim?
She's a really good friend of mine, no?
Yeah, she's got some of his art. Some of his other exhibitions have been opened by the Premier, Anna Bligh, and Mr. Wayne Bennett. When they said he was coming to open one, he contacted us. I thought, what am I going to talk to him about? He's a grumpy old man that just plays football. I don't even like football. It's going to be really, really hard. He, as you might know, he has 2 children with severe disabilities. It was one of the most revealing, uplifting conversations I've had in my life. For once, we were both on the same wavelength. We both understood each other, the difficulties that we face, the future for our children. We had so much to discuss. He has some of his Tim's artwork that remains in his house. It's actually in Justin's room, and he is as great a man as that they tell you, but I got to see him on a different level, which was absolutely wonderful. A few years ago, only 2 years ago, Tim had an exhibition in Brisbane at the Powerhouse.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, and in came a couple of men, looked at the art and said, that's exactly what we've been looking for. They were animators who'd been commissioned by the ABC to put together some new work for the new ABC children's television channel. So they took Tim's art, worked on it and produced an 8-episode animated series that screens on the ABC3 TV. It's now been shown on Cartoon Network Asia, Cartoon Network Australia, Cartoon Network New Zealand, as well as the ABC3. It is the first time in the world that a young man with autism has had their creation turned into a television series. So we're enormously proud of that. Tim's art is sold around the world in Washington, New York. It's had exhibitions in the Sydney Opera House, Hong Kong, throughout America. There's an exhibition about Tim in the National Museum of Australia. He has been twice a finalist for Young Australian of the Year for his work in promoting ability. We go into a lot of schools and talk with a lot of families with young children with autism who are starting their journey as well. Geez, you've done so many things. Tell me just Yeah, we had a bit of blank. Last year we went back to America and we showed the television series at a film festival in Austin, Texas, and also went up to New York to show the television series there. It was shown in the Museum of Modern Art, which is a bad achievement to have on your CV. Last year we had a big exhibition in Brisbane, and while you were there, who'd you get to meet, Tim?
Kate Blanchett.
Yeah, and she bought some of Tim's art, and then a few weeks later we got a email from her saying, since I met Tim, I can't stop thinking about him, which is the reaction that most people seem to have with Tim. He's quite a charming, delightful young man. And she said, well, you come down to Sydney and have a meeting with us. So we went down to Sydney and we had a meeting with her, and we've been back 3 or 4 times, and we spent a week in Geelong in March. Mr. Geelong, what a beautiful place in the world you live in. And we're now working on a play with Kate Blanchett at the Sydney Theatre Company and Back to Back Theatre Company in Geelong, which should open in the beginning of 2013. It's going to tour Australia, and boy, is that going to be one big party. I can't wait till we bring it home to Brisbane in QPAC in the middle of the year. So that's the stage that he's up to now. It's just been the most amazing thing. But as I said, we still go into schools. We like to talk to a lot of families that are starting their journey with autism. Tim, a couple of weeks ago at the Alex Perry event at Sanctuary Cove, Tim donated a piece of art for the AIU. He's a charity ambassador for them that helps children under 5 with autism get their placements, and that raised $3,500 last week, and it was $2,500 for the Mater Children's Hospital. So that's an important part of his work as well. And Tim's art all features his superhero Laserbeakman. And as I said, they're more a humorous type of thing. Alex Perry has some, Wayne Bennett, Kate Blanchett, Quentin Bryce has some. You've got a lot of Alan Jones, the radio announcer. You've got a lot of famous friends, haven't you, Tim?
I do, Mum.
Yeah. Each one of these, the big one like this takes him 30 hours to do. He does it with a crayon. He can only sit for about 20 minutes at a time. Then he has to go away and have a break. He does nothing on his own. I have to sit with him. So if I'm cooking, he'll say, now it's time to draw, Mum. Turn it off, go and sit with him while he does a little bit more, then go back. He sold out last year. He's got about 23 commissions waiting now. People just seem to like it. This is one of his most popular ones. If you can, are you going to help me?
Yeah, I am, Mum.
This one's called...
This one is called the barbecue one. This Laserbeakman giving the Barbies a sausage.
So it's called a barbecue. Yeah. So you'll never have a barbecue the same way.
Right.
So, excellent. You want to do the next one?
And this drawing I'm going to show you, it's called I'm Over It. And this is Laserbeakman planking. IT.
Yeah, Laserbeakman planking, isn't it? I'm over it. So you can see the very literal interpretation that these come through. And then we've got some smaller ones here if you wanted to have a look afterwards. We've got some greeting cards. His most famous one is called Laserbeakman tells the Wiggles to shut up.
That's the one.
So he just got sick and tired. And we've heard from the Wiggles, they absolutely love it. And in that he's got Captain Feathersword walking the plank into a pool of sharks. one of the wiggles on a conveyor belt being chopped up into fruit salads, another one. And for every parent in Australia that's been driven crazy by one of their songs, it's been a huge success. As I said, Tim's only 23.